Hello everyone and welcome to the channel. I'm Emmanuel and today I want to give you an introduction into how to get the ultimate Ryanair experience flying in your Microsoft Flight Simulator. So in this video I'm going to cover what is the best way to find your Ryanair flights, what is the best aircraft and liveries and airline configurations to use, and what is the best add-ons to substitute your experience. So let's start straight off. So, which aircraft and which liveries would I recommend to use? Well, you can see I've got the Echo India, Echo Mike India standing over here, and indeed I would recommend to start off in the PMDG Operations Center, because over here you will find Ryanair aircraft from pretty much across the entire group, and all of them feature their own verified airline configuration specific to the set of aircraft that you will find. For example, you have the 9 Hotel Quebec Alpha Hotel, which is a Malta airplane, and it's got its specific config. Then you've got the Delta Charlie Oscar, which is a rather old Ryanair aircraft, and therefore it might have some analog standby instruments. And then you have something from in the middle, Echo Mike India. Then you have one operated by Buzz, which is the Eastern European subsidiary. You've got the Ryanair UK one, and all of them have their own specific configuration. So the year that you see next to it basically tells you from when the airplane is. And even though things might be close, like the Echo Mike India from 2017 and the Quebec Alpha Hotel from 2019, they might have totally different configurations. The only thing you might want to check is the multi-mode receiver, because with the introduction of that, unfortunately all the aircraft got retrofitted in the sim, but not in real life. So if you have the Delta Charlie Oscar or the Echo Mike Indias, those have the conventional radios, and the newer series, the Echo India Fox, Echo India Golf, and the Malta airplanes, they usually have the multi-mode receiver. So now that we know which plane we want to fly, how about we have a look into from where we want to fly and how we can substitute them? Obviously, we got the two big Ryanair bases, which are London Stansted, which Indie Builds have recently released for a price of €16.30, which I can really recommend. And then there is Dublin from MK Studios, which is also really high quality scenery that I can only recommend you to check out. Now, obviously Ryanair flies to a lot more airports with over 80 bases, so you can kind of pick which one you would like, but Stansted and Dublin are for sure two very good places to start with, especially Stansted if you want to find your way around Europe. From Stansted you'll get pretty much almost anywhere. So let's go ahead with another add-on that I would recommend in order to conclude the basics that I would recommend you to have when starting to fly for virtual Ryanair. And that is FS2 Crew with the SOP number 2. Now, if we go a little bit further down into SOP number 2 and what it offers and what it has, then you will see that it features a European low-cost airline, and, well, it comes very close. It comes very close. Okay then, now that we know which basic add-ons we want to have, now that we know which sceneries we want to start with, we can start deciding on what we actually want to fly. And in order to do that, I would recommend to start off with Flight Radar 24. Now, you will see that I've got the gold subscription up here, but this can be done with pretty much any of the subscriptions. So, here's how to do it. We click on the three bars, then we go to Aviation Data and then Airlines. And now we want to have a look at Ryanair. So from here on, you go onto routes, and then from routes you click onto the base that you want to fly from, or basically any of the airports in the network. So let's say we want to start from London Stansted today. So we click right under here, and you can already see that there is loads of flight from Stansted. Now if you scroll down a little bit further, you can even see when those flights are operated and which kind of equipment is used. And if you now say that, hold on a moment, Airbus A320, then yes, that is operated by Lauda. And then obviously you got the 737-800, you got the 737-8200, and so on. So plenty of flights to choose from. Now let's say we want to choose any specific flight. For example, we want to do the sector towards Billund, then we just about go right on here, and if we click on the play button, then we are going to get the realistic call sign as well as the flight number. So Ryanair flight 5165 would have the call sign Ryanair 69 Golf Quebec. If you want to, you can also figure out the altitudes used, for example, by going along over here, and you can see this one climbed up to an altitude of 38,000 feet, so that might help you with your SimBrief planning as well. And then obviously going into London, you got some sort of interesting maneuvering over here, with some orbits being flown and stuff like that. Happens. However, what is really interesting now is if you have a look into the airplane in question. So let's say you decided, okay, I want to fly to Billund, but what else did the crew do on that day? Now, let's have a look. This one was operated by 9 Hotel Quebec Charlie Lima. So if we click onto that registration, we can now see everything that the airplane has flown or is flying on that day. Now, let me give you a little bit of an insight into how Ryanair rosters usually look like for the pilots. It's usually either a 2-sector day or a 4-sector day. 2 sectors means you fly somewhere, you fly back, and you are going home. 4 sectors, you fly somewhere, you go back, you fly somewhere else, and you go back, then you go home. Now, if we have a look into this particular aircraft, we can see that, for example, this is what it's flying on the day where I'm recording this, on the 2nd of July. You would start with a trip from Billund towards Milan-Bergamo, and then the crew goes back towards Billund. Then from there, if you have a look into the times, you can see that Bergamo and back, you got that famous 25-minute turnaround in between over here, but now you arrive at 0850, and the plane is only scheduled to depart again at 10:10. Now that is usually an indication that there is a crew change taking place. So from here on, the crew would be finished, and the next crew would take over. So the next crew is now going to depart from Billund towards Stansted on the flight that we looked at. And then you once again got a 25-minute turnaround. And then after this, you once again got, well, a 30-minute turnaround. And this is a very clear indication that this would be the same crew flying this. So you got the same crew there starting at 10:10 UTC, and they are scheduled to fly till 1855, because they will probably be based in Billund, as we can see, so they'll fly over to Stansted, back home, then over to Turin, and then back home. So that is what that day would look like for that particular crew in question. And that way you can sort of figure out which routes you might want to fly if you want to simulate a realistic day of a Ryanair crew. The same obviously can be done down here if we have a look at the day before. We've got the crew going from Billund towards Rome Fiumicino, landing there at 6:50, departing 7:25, then landing at 10:00 and departing at 10:50. So that is probably an indication that there is a crew change taking place over here after those first 2 sectors. And then they would fly towards Charleroi, 25-minute turnaround, then 25-minute turnaround back, and then on towards Trapani and back. So this crew would be working again from 10:50 UTC till 2100 UTC. And that is what that day would probably look like. So now that we've basically decided on the flights that we want to do, we need to figure out, okay, so how are we going to plan those flights? And for that, obviously, we are going to use SimBrief as always. Going into SimBrief, there's a little bit of basic stuff that we want to do. So let's have a look into how I set up my Ryanair plane over here. Now let's take this one. Obviously, in real life, 9 Hotel Victor Uniform Alpha would be 737-8200, so max aircraft. However, I set this one up in my sim earlier. And here's the important thing. We need to keep in mind that in Ryanair, the baggage usually costs extra. So for that reason, I've set my baggage weight to 0. Because the way SimBrief works is, for every passenger, it would also add a bag. And that is not how it normally works in Ryanair, because those bags have to be purchased extra usually. So for that reason, we're going to keep the 86 kilograms per passenger over here, maximum passenger count 189 for the 737-800s. And the 86 I keep because in real life they calculate with a little bit less, but the 86 I keep because it is what the PMDG FMC uses when I adjust my passenger load. So now that we've basically set this up, let's go ahead and start planning our flight. Let's say we want to go ahead and plan our flight from, I don't know, give me that one here from Billund towards Stansted. So we've got the FR 5165, let's go ahead and start planning that. So RYANAIR 5165, and we depart from Billund and go towards London Stansted. Now let's take our aircraft, the 9 Hotel Victor Uniform Alpha, and you can basically see how this gets loaded up. The route looks quite similar to what these guys flew in real life. Keep in mind, ATC shortcuts may come into place, so if we have a look into the UIRs over here, then I would kind of expect they negotiated between Amsterdam and Copenhagen for something like this, for a shortcut, and then we pretty much got the route that we have up here, so that is fine for us. If we go ahead from there, Cosinic 6, that is basically what you're gonna have on all RYANAIR flights. You would really have to have things go wrong and delays to approach a point where you cannot land at your destination anymore because of night curfew, for example, or because you might be going into the area of 3 hours delay where you need to compensate your passengers. In that cases, Cosinic 100 would be used. Otherwise, it's always going to be Cosinic 6. Now, let me quickly correct this one over here. Here we go. That's better. And now we can say our call sign is going to be 69 Golf Quebec. So go down here. It is a call sign, RYANAIR 69 Golf Quebec. Then we have our registration here already. We don't have any sail call or stuff like that. OFP layout, obviously, we are going to switch this one towards the RYANAIR layout. Kilograms is going to be used. Now this is where things get interesting. For the passenger count, the PMDG has a maximum of 184 in the cabin, so 189 as per the RYANAIR standard would be quite a lot. But what I would recommend you to do, normally those RYANAIR aircraft, we can get that from their official investors' data. They're usually booked fairly well, so they have an average load of some 92%. So let's say we got those 189 times 92%. So we end up somewhere around 170 to 180 passengers that are usually booked on those flights. So let's say we want to take 180. And now what we got to do, because we earlier selected that those passengers do not carry any bags, we need to come up with a freight load for our bags and everything that passengers want to take along. Now, RYANAIR does normally not carry cargo, only their own stuff like aircraft spare parts and stuff like that. So let's say we got maybe 50 passengers who wanted to take along a bag. So now we can do the mathematics. 13 kilograms is what most airlines use for their bags. So if we now take our calculator, we can figure out that 50 times 13 ends up somewhere around 650 kilograms of cargo. And those we can load up, freight 650 kilograms. And that should give us a realistic zero fuel weight. So now that we basically planned all of this, the last thing we want to do is SimBrief normally gives you quite a strange alternate planning. So for that reason, let's quickly change the alternate. For Stansted, I would say a good alternate would be East Midlands, for example. So let's go ahead and take that. And then we can go ahead and generate our flight, which is going to give us our preferred operational flight plan. That's our OFP calculated. We can see we've got an estimated zero fuel weight 58.3. Now that is actually something that you would typically see on RYANAIR operations. And then we've got our entire route of flight planned over here. OFP in the RYANAIR layout, so that is pretty much everything we would be looking for. Alright, so I do hope you have enjoyed this one. If you did, then do let me know in the comments below. And I am very much looking forward to welcome you again on the next one. In the meantime, enjoy your virtual RYANAIR flights. I do hope that I contributed a little bit to get them a bit more realistic for you. In the meantime, thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this one. Do let me know in the comments below. And if you want to support the channel, why not become a channel member, which is going to give you exclusive early access to new videos before they're released for everyone else. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you again very soon.